Hello, everyone. My guest today is Danny Lieberman. He's a solid-state physicist by training, serious amateur musician and tech entrepreneur developing automated detection and response for virtual clinical trials. Danny, ready to take us to the top?
Yep, absolutely.
So first, explain what a virtual clinical trial is.
So actually today, a virtual clinical trial is any clinical trial because in the time of Corona, everybody is not coming to hospitals and research sites. So that means that a lot of the use of digital channels, more and more connected devices. And so maybe 2 years ago, virtual trials was a big deal. Today, it's like, everything is practically virtual.
And so who's typically paying for this? Big R&D firms inside of healthcare providers?
Our customers are drug and device companies. We're working with companies like Stryker, which is a big medical device company. We were very fortunate. One of our early stage customers was acquired by them. So by default, we got a big customer. Google Health, Amgen on the West Coast, and a bunch of small Israeli biotech companies.
And help me understand how you charge them.
So we're a SaaS company. So basically, we do until we started, we went from 0 to 1 in January 2019, and our model was, because we wanted to get our foot in the door, was basically charge a setup and a fixed monthly cost between $1,500 and $2,500 a month, depending on modules, and just have unlimited usage for that. And we thought that was like a killer model at the time. Of course, the bottom of our market just dropped out in February 2020, and things just totally changed. And we started thinking about our pricing model. And so now we're charging per patient, which actually is really great because for small projects, like for 10, 20 patients, it's really cheap for the customer. And for the big ones, it scales well because a clinical trial, a drug or device company will spend anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 per patient. So $500 a patient is not a big deal.
And is that what you're charging right now, $500 per patient?
Yeah, so we're actually doing 500, and we're bidding on a big 20,000 patient trial right now. So we've given them like a sliding scale. So they're actually paying low numbers for that. But for us, it'll be like a $2 million contract over the next couple of years if we get it.
That's great. And how many patients have gone through your system today where brands are paying $500 per patient?
So we just started out like the end of Q3 2020. So we're having so we did like 287 in our first year.
287 patients?
$287,000.
Oh, got it.
That's like the equivalent of say 500. So it's like about 600 patients, and to now we've done over almost 7,000. So it's scaling up really nicely.
So just to be clear, you finished 2019, you did about $287,000 that year in revenue. In 2020, what was total revenue? 320. And what do you think you'll do this year?
So we have our bookings for Q1 is 400. So
wow.
We're going very quickly. And you have to understand that in 2020, basically, we didn't have a Q1, Q2 because Corona just basically killed our business. And it was like end of February, I'm coming to work and I'm thinking, okay, what's gonna happen now? So
yep. And so is this truly recurring revenue though? I mean, once someone puts 100 patients through you and they do the trial, don't they then stop and churn?
So that's a really good question. Typically, life science companies will do a minimum of 4 trials. So they'll do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and sometimes, many times, a small pilot, like 10, 20 patients before phase 1. So we've actually, out of 25 customers, we only lost 1. And it was our fault. We fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually came back to us last week, so that's good news. So
Danny, last month in December of 2020, then how much monthly recurring revenue did you do in that month? Last month,
we did about 40.
That's great. Okay, good. So do you think you can break the $1 million run rate this year?
If we work hard, yes.
That's good. And have you bootstrapped this or raised capital?
It's bootstrapped, totally.
Okay. Congratulations. Yes. That's exciting.
Right. Yeah. And that includes Corona time. So I'm sitting in my office with my partner in the end of February, and we're saying, well, what the fuck is going on? What's going to happen?
Now, did you put your own capital in the business?
So I put my own capital into the business, and what happened was, end of 2019, we had a VP biz dev that I fired his ass because he wasn't doing cold calling, and I had no idea that I figured, okay, we'll take some time, we'll get a better person who's happy to cold call people, and then Corona happened, so we were between a rock and a hard place, and I did probably the most counterintuitive thing I've ever done in my life, which is I stopped selling. We stopped selling and we just doubled down on the product development. And we started telling people about what we were doing. And it turns out that was an amazing way of marketing the product, just to tell people what we were working on.
And what's your team size today?
So we have 4 people, 4.5 actually. So we have a project manager who's like a half-time person who came to us from one of the banks. And she's actually officially retired, but she's not retired with us. So,
and Danny, are you profitable today, or are you break even?
So we lost money in 2019, and Q4 we made money. So my accountant tells me we're paying taxes. So I guess we're profitable.
Got it. That is a good way to know if you're profitable or not. Now, you just listening to your language. Are you a tough guy to work for?
Am I a tough guy to work for?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I'm a tough guy to negotiate with, but I think that the team is, it's a small team. And I wrote a post about this, about the importance of speaking softly. And that has to do with the fact that I'm a jazz musician and I play in a large jazz ensemble. So if you play very loud, people can't hear themselves, and you can't hear other people. So in a small tech team, any size tech team really, but today 4 or 5 people can create great software. You need to speak really softly and listen. That means paying attention to other people and not just yelling because you think you have the best idea in the block.
You did $287,000 in your first year in business across 500 patients. It's not easy going from 0 to 500 patients. How did you do that?
Well, it's like we went from 0 to 1 in like actually went from 0 to 3 customers in 2 months. It was just word of mouth. So
no, Danny, come on. It's not word of mouth. If it was word of mouth, any company that ever launched would just magically, by word of mouth, get through their first 3 customers.
That's a bullshit answer. I'll give you the real answer. The real answer was that I was doing medical device security consulting for several years, and I already had a number of customers. And the idea for doing automated detection is basically a cyber idea. And we had a customer who was like spending 6 months cleaning data. And I said, what the fuck are you doing cleaning data? Because they said, well, there's a lot of data. I said, give me a break. You have 180 patients. You have 25 research sites in the US. That's not a lot of data. A lot of data is my mobile operators in Central Europe with 10 million mobile subscribers, right? That's a lot of data, okay? And they said, but we're doing it with paper and it's very hard. So, and I had like this light bulb moment that we could automate detection of anomalies, and that's what we did. So I went back to 2 or 3 of my medical device customers. I said, look, we have an idea. And they said, it's a great idea. So we'll work with you and we'll help you develop this idea if you give us like a really great deal on collecting data. Mm-hmm. So I said, fine. So we got an open source system for collecting data, and we worked hard and we put it online.
So that open source sort of package was your first foray into building FlaskData. Are you still using a lot of open source code at FlaskData?
We are, actually. Yeah. And it was actually our foot in the door, because if we had not had that, we probably would have never gotten started.
How do you think about supporting the open source community? Do they hate the fact that you're monetizing open source software that a bunch of people contributed to? And are you contributing code back to the open source plan?
So we're contributing code back for that product, and now we're that project, and we're on another project, on an amazing project started by some people from Facebook, which we really love. So we're talking about improving. We're beginning to contribute back to that project, and the code. The maintainer of the code is I think is excited about our ideas, and we believe in open source. I mean, coming from the security community, more eyeballs is better, right?
How do you make sure that relationship stays good? I imagine someone that builds open source code.
it's really important for us to do that. That's part of I think that's part of our philosophy.
Danny, how do you keep a good relationship, though, with whoever created the open source code? I imagine they can look at you, they listen to this podcast, they go, wow, he's making $300,000 per year on open source code. We got a bunch of people to commit to and donate sort of for free. How do you make sure you balance that relationship?
So first of all, by giving back. Second of all, from a customer perspective, by giving them a good solution, because most of the time when you're working with a closed source system, it's very hard to support. With open source, you can find problems and fix them, and when you fix the problems, you fork it and you put a pull request back into GitHub and you send it back, and people are grateful for that, I think.
Danny, this is good stuff. Let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite business book.
Excuse me?
Favorite business book.
Favorite business book. Favorite business book. God, it's not luck.
It's not luck. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Well, I was at Andy Grove. I work for Intel, so I'm like a big fan of Andy Grove.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building FlaskData?
GitHub.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep are you getting every night?
Hours of sleep?
Yep.
7.
And what's your situation, Danny? Married, single, kiddos?
I'm married plus 4.
4 kids, wow. And how old are you?
How old am I?
Yep.
I'm 70.
70, love that. Okay, last question. What's something you wish you knew when you were 20?
What was I wishing when I was 20?
Something you wish you knew when you were 20.
I thought I wish I knew when I was 20. Good question. I wish I knew that it was more important to speak softly to people and treat them well.
Guys, there you have it. FlaskData. He was doing medical device security consulting for 3 years and said, you know what? I see an opportunity here. Data, clinical trials, launched with a price point, ultimately now charges $500 per patient that these big companies like Amgen want to put through FlaskData when they're doing large clinical trials. They did $287,000 in 2019 revenue across 500 patients. In 2020, did $320,000 across 600 patients, doing $40,000 a month right now, hoping to break $1 million run rate by the end here of 2021. Danny, we're rooting for you. Thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to me, Nathan. Have a good one.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.